Up where they walk, up
Down
where they
go.
run, up where
The
they
wave
stay all day.
frame rate is go.
Sun.
Now the words flow out your ear holes
It's
into
a podcast.
We did. We stuck the landing, dude.
I don't know how.
Kind
That
of.
was just a
Yeah.
piece of shit all the way through.
Hey, speaking
yeah.
of which, this is Michael Swaim talking to
you. And this is the other piece of shit
All the
that
way
you may
through.
recognize.
Yeah.
I'm Abe Epperson.
Shit to the bone, dude.
Shit to the
Shit
bone.
to the bone.
That's how we start our Little Mermaid
This
episode.
is Frame Rate, where we rate frames. Believe it or not, yeah, we don't often dip into the world of children's animation, but we felt it was appropriate because my baby arrives in just under 2 weeks as of this taping. But also, I think we both actually have a soft spot for this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
and
legit.
I think that the content is going to not turn. I'm going to make sure you don't turn into dad rock. You know, the equivalency of.
I don't think that will happen. I don't think I'll lose my edge. But as every dad says before
The
they dad
edge.
out, right?
Yeah, but like,
I mean, I'm here covering Little Mermaid. I'm still edgy. I'm still
edgy. It's like, you want to kind of revisit the classics because you're like, at what time? Take mental note.
My ethos is largely anti-Disney. A lot of Disney stuff bounces off me, and I think somewhat you too. But Little Mermaid gets through. Robin Hood gets through. You know, there's these ones that are like, well, that movie's good. Yeah. And of course, we're talking about the original animated 1989 Little Mermaid.
83 minutes, soaking
83
wet.
minutes, basically a Rene Aubergenois vehicle when it comes down to it.
That's right, Chef Odo.
Yeah, Chef Odo. Scourge of the Fish. Also stars the Wright brothers, Samuel and Ben Wright. I just noticed that.
Yeah,
and Buddy Hackett. Buddy Hackett is in this movie.
Buddy Hackett is a seal, as he deserves.
Just a weird assortment of voices. Yeah, he crushes as the seagull, frankly. He does exactly what you want. He's a wacky, hacky, Dom DeLuise-esque.
Is a trash parrot, you know?
Yeah, if younger people who don't know Buddy Hackett, just take it from us. That's very on vibe. Rene Aubergenois being a homicidal French chef is almost too on brand. Like, almost. All right, well, let's calm down. But
also, I want to toss out, because I only noticed this viewing, Edie McClurg, who's the maid in this, and is also, you might recognize as the secretary from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like the assistant to the
yeah,
principal.
Yeah. Now I know. Yeah, exactly who you're talking about. And it's also sorry, I'll get off. I'm such a fucking Trek nerd, but I just thought it was interesting how I completely forgot. I was like, Rene Aubergenois. And then they were like, oh, he's the chef. And I'm like, oh, that. I didn't even remember that scene. And then I didn't even remember it's a song. And I gotta say, is that just me, or is like, oh, I was gonna say a totally cuttable in such a short movie.
Oh,
totally cuttable, forgettable, does not add to the plot moment. Of like, oh yeah, why is he even in there? I forgot that chef has a little ditty.
It's insane how simplistic, when you actually go back to rewatch Little Mermaid
through adult eyes.
It's super streamlined.
Yeah,
like
so
they were like,
yeah.
It kind of feels phoned in, but it also just feels like, let's cut the fat. And the only fat that remains is the chef bit.
Well, and it is fat. That's what I mean. Just in the terms of this thing is so streamlined, it looks like you were only keeping load bearing stuff. And technically that's not load bearing. But I guess they liked the song, so they kept it in. It did remind me of some trivia, which was that there was a deeper lore in Act 1. Very similar to other Disney bangers from an even earlier era, like Snow White, or I'm thinking of Sleeping Beauty primarily. Originally, there was a draft where Ursula and Triton are brother and sister, and they have a falling out for a reason, you know what I mean? And like, she has political reasons for doing what she's doing. And they're just like, fuck all that.
Yeah,
like,
we don't need
she's
lore.
bad. She does it because she's a bitch, and we're just off to the races.
Yeah.
And what I love even more as an adult, the glossing over is like, he loves her. Why? He saw her. Fuck you. Like, it's straight up, she's a princess and he's a prince. Naturally, you see that they belong together.
And they both have blue eyes.
Right.
And they're
and she
super
doesn't talk
handsome.
back.
She doesn't talk.
It's
She's mute as fuck. Yeah. It's that's rough. Speaking of almost cut, did you know that part of your world, which is not only just like one of the bangers of the whole thing, but all the way through is like the main theme, you know, like they do it in the interstitial, they play it over numerous scenes. They almost cut that shit.
Wow. That's
crazy.
So much more than later Disney movies. These, I think, what defines this classic era. And I mean, Lion King is great. It's truly great. And Elton John and Bernie Taupin are also very talented. But I honestly, for me, the golden era was, as this is, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken were this team.
Dude.
And it's literally just like, what I actually love about Disney, that's not true, because I'm a huge fan of cell animation and genuinely appreciate it. But a big part is like, these may as well be big hit albums that came out. Like these are, and it's in spite of some of the aspects, meaning even as a kid and now way more so, I think Little Mermaid has terrible messages and the plot is artless nonsense for dumb kids. Like, everything about it kind of sucks, except that the songs rule and it's beautiful to look at and the voices are great.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But like, Poor Unfortunate Souls. If people know our movie Kill Me Now, I watched Caitlin. One of my highlight memories of life is watching Caitlin Large do Poor Unfortunate Souls at karaoke in Idlewild after a shoot and being like, holy fuck. Poor Unfortunate Souls is maybe the best song. Not just for karaoke, but like, is that the best song?
Yeah, between this, Aladdin, and Lion King, it is like, you're right about albums. Like, it's like there's 8 songs or something per movie, right?
And if Little Mermaid's case, it's like 6 out of 8 are all timers.
Are bangers. Like, holy crap! Dude, and all of them do that.
I stood out of my seat, which I don't do a lot for media. I've been doing it a lot for the game UFO 50 lately. And I did it for Little Mermaid the other night when I watched it, because somehow it's been long enough and I didn't see the live action. I forgot the song Under the Sea exists. Like, I forgot it. It dropped out of my head. And when we got to that number and that beat kicked in and the neuron fired up that remembered how good the song is and that it's about to happen to me, I stood up and was like, yeah, man. Under the, man, downward sweater. Oh my God. Because they get luck here down in the muck here under the sea. And another thing that I didn't know before, his whole name, Horatio Felonius Ignatius Crustaceus Sebastian.
Yes.
I also like that it's not Thelonious, like would make sense because he's a band leader. It's Felonious, I guess. He's a criminal crap.
But I love that Crustaceus is the last one.
Crustaceus,
that's his
Sebastian.
last name.
But my point being, also one of the great vocals, like the whole, throughout the movie, the whole delivery. Meaning, like, if this were a Broadway musical, Sebastian is a star, dude. Standout.
This is the first like film of Disney of its ilk, in that it's mimicking a Broadway musical in like form and structure. It's just crazy that like, now that feels like, well, obviously because the golden era of the 90s, but you forget that this is made in 89. The 80s were a slew of like failed hits. You know, like even the ones that were like, oh yeah, that's. You
mean for Disney
or classic Disney?
Oh, no, Disney
this was the first kind of bigger hit for them.
This was their comeback arc that would eventually give us Lion King and whatnot.
Right. And Katzenberg. I mean, Eisner, the big difference is Eisner was hired as CEO. Katzenberg was head of the studio during the 90s and the Disney revival. If you know the name Katzenberg, he's the K in the SKG for DreamWorks. And Disney Story is much like Marvel, like a studio that was in a slump, ranking last in the box office comparative to like other major studios. And he came in and he was just like,
I
let's
hope
do
Disney
a few...
will be okay, Abe. Will Disney be okay?
Yeah, let's make some bangers of animations. Let's broker the deal with Pixar to create Toy Story, and also Touchstone Pictures, which he formed, which was the adult arm of Disney, which made comedies, numerous comedies throughout the 80s and 90s. It's just like crazy how they turned the shit around. So now you know why those people make so much money. Because they brought you things like Little Mermaid.
We've moved so far beyond a lot of these conventions that they're refreshing again to me, meaning like I almost forgot, because we seem to react so strongly against it now in a minimalist sort of modernist way, and we love electronic music and whatnot. I was like, oh yeah, fully lush classical score with a symphony orchestra kind of rips. And we almost never do that anymore.
The Broadway-esque like hacks are in full form, and they totally work on me. And as a little kid,
the
like,
soundtrack sounds
world,
like you're sitting in Broadway watching a show, essentially.
It blew my mind. Like the run up where they run, walk up where they run, like where it does that for the chorus.
Just
like that is designed to tug at your heartstrings. And Menken is so good at it, and it's incredible that this is like what this is. Little Mermaid is essentially he did all the songs for Little Shop of Horrors, right? That's what Menken did.
Right.
And then he became
another
huge on Broadway.
Musicals,
and then they were like, you should do this thing called Disney.
You'll be a dad.
That's just wild. That's wild. That's a weird cross section.
Down
it's
in
kind
Skid
of
Row,
like Tim Burton.
Menken is unstoppable. I feel like we don't even say his name enough. You know,
Right.
He does have that, the auspices of one who you go like, oh, that name just kind of rings a bell. What did he do? Well, he did blah and blah and blah and blah. And it's like
Beauty
when you're
the
like
Beast,
David Kaplan,
Aladdin,
you're like,
Hercules,
oh, Jurassic Park.
yeah.
Oh, Jurassic Park. Oh, now I know who you're talking about. Well, yeah, of course you do. He's that for cute musicals.
Yeah, and I remember as just like a little emo boy, just part of your world. And when she sings it initially in the grotto, I just thought it was the most spectacular sequences, and they almost cut it.
And
they almost cut it.
Oh, of course,
That's
it's the notable. Yeah, it's the one that launched 1,000 Halloween costumes for little girls. But the Menken is a master of, and I've got to give credit to Howard Ashman as well, I suppose, because I'm not sure how that's split up. But a lot of his songs have that one run that differs the pattern. And this is not groundbreaking, but he nails it every time.
Yeah.
The part in fucking a part of your world where she goes, where they don't reprimand their daughters, and you're like, oh, she took it to a new level. The melody has altered. It just changes everything.
And also that they were like, there's video you can watch on YouTube of Benson, who's the singer, like her dialing in like the quote unquote authentic of performance, because there's I think 2 sections in the song where she's like tosses it away, you know, it's like breaks the voice and is just like,
and sing talks, and they're dialing in when to do that.
Yeah, and that's very Broadway as well. And like they dialed it in, like you see him going like, no, you gotta like,
it's technical.
You gotta pause for
in
this
the Broadway
long. What
way.
the fuck are you doing?
Totally. You know? Yeah. It feels technical and polished, and in a way that I guess for people in my generation, I feel like, because you're right, if you go earlier, there was a previous era that isn't this way, but this sort of, Disney is animated Broadway shows is what I most strongly associate with the brand, even though it's not necessarily the only facet we've seen. It's just one era, but it's my era. It's like, it's the golden era. We lived on the West Coast, so instead of Broadway shows, we'd go see Disney cartoons.
A little bit, yeah. This was our exposure to that as kids.
And I was realizing how much it influenced downstream Disney branded shit that I forgot. You know, that's why it's good to go back to the roots and sort of connect the dots. Like, Flounder is Dory. It's the same character traits with the same bag of joke tricks attached to it. I forgot how much Flounder was the forgetful, befuddled, cute clownfish thing. And then the other one was, Ursula as in being an homage to the Eartha Kitt type, is Yzma, who's, I believe, literally Eartha Kitt, but like that arch, there's through lines where you're like, Little Mermaid even founded some Disney tropes that have been recurrent and echoic.
From what I was aware, Ursula was based on Divine, the drag queen.
I'm sure.
Who was popularized by John Waters and his films. Do you want to talk about the complex, semi-complex at best narrative problems, the retroactive criticism of this film?
I have overwhelming amount of notes on this. I could talk about a lot of things.
Okay. The fundamental problem comes down to this for me, and I think it's pretty obvious, which is the idea of, so I have agency. I'm the Disney princess that represents choice for the first time in the history of Disney. I choose to be mute.
They're old-fashioned. Yeah, I choose to give up my voice for my to be more marriable.
But also,
even before that, I do love that from their standards, the standards of the cultural hegemony of this time, beating out this movie. They're like, how can we show that she's such a fucking rebel that where everyone else is a conformist, she represents choice? And they're like, how about in the choreographed dance that they do honoring the greatness of their father, she misses rehearsal or whatever?
That was the big slap to the face.
That's already pretty subservient, but all right.
Totally.
She didn't show up for slave school, so fuck her, I guess.
Right.
She's a loose cannon. She doesn't show up in her clamshell in the middle of a song, and his eyes turn red. He's so angry that he has a storm fill the ocean.
It's like, I will kill everyone.
Yeah. Because she missed a cue in a cute show that his daughters were doing.
Even Sebastian the crab is hiding in terror.
Yeah, please,
King Triton.
My king.
He's like, please don't smite me, sir, for your unruly daughter. It's the 80s still. Rebellious teen. And I think the big thing here, I guess, is that she doesn't let things happen to her. Not like Snow White, where it's just like, oh, I'm just sleeping here. She does stuff.
By the eve of the 90th decade of the 1000th year,
yeah, exactly.
They were like, I guess the girl should also be an agent in the story. That would be good story structure. Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Right.
Give her some business. Although they're also like, you cannot escape the class system. To be fit to marry a land prince, she must be a sea princess. Like the daughter of God, which I just find so weird.
And it's unthinkable.
To marry a land guy. Yeah.
But she was always, obviously by the, she gives up her voice to get some legs from the sea witch. So it's always kind of seen as I guess retroactively, gender fluid or body image icon.
Yeah, and it could be
she's
so
in the
powerful,
closet, so to speak.
It could be so powerful as the same beats if we did the classic woke flip and made it. That's right. It's a statement about how women often have to give up their voice to find, but it's not critical of it. She does it and it's good. That leads her to success.
The villain is her only female role model.
Right.
So it's so she gives up her I can be anything, I have a voice.
And again, if you're saying she's modeled on a drag queen, this brings up the idea that Jafar is gay coded, that Disney uses gay and queer and trans as shorthand
as a little bit,
what I mean, evil.
Wrong.
Yeah. Unnatural, a gay person.
And then they're like, yeah, she should be a feminist icon. She should have a voice. She can be anything. And then,
if you'll buy the backpack, hell yeah.
Yeah, identity is determined by you. It's the new world.
Disney is if that's the way morality of the center is going, we go with it, right? That's the reality.
Right.
Is Disney is willing to evolve on issues at exactly whatever the rate of the average tax-paying consumer
Have you seen Star Wars recently?
Right. There's a guy who goes, hey, I know a gay guy, as the camera pans by, and you're like, wow, they really did it. How
but
brave.
It really is.
I know this gay guy once. He's in space.
But it really is they start off so good. They're like, identity is a performed construct, and then she chooses domesticity and like conformity to heteronormative ideals, and it's just like, oh yeah, right, Disney. I forgot that I'm watching Disney in the 80s.
Also, just that as a side effect, because full disclosure, I still want to work out the format, or like who would bring it, who would be the co-host, what would be the rubrics. But I'm really into this idea of one day doing a podcast, Raising Swam, where we judge media, old and new, and decide whether it's fit to like expose my son to, and unpack philosophically, do you believe in the ethos or whatever? Right. Kind of like we're doing with this. But obviously this one would like fail hard out the gate in most regards. Right. And one of them that's very funny to me, just as an incidental side effect, which they solely play for humor, is highly likely your kid walks away from this movie going, so when I eat fish, they're they're horrified and they're scared. They don't want it. They want to live. Yeah, dude. When you eat crab, they're sad. Oh my God, I didn't know that. Like this, it really hammers you over the head with, animals hate that you eat them. They're just like us. They're terrified.
It's weird that never worked on me, which is surprising.
You didn't give a shit?
Yeah. I didn't give a shit. I was like, immediately after watching Little Mermaid, I'm like, let's go to Red Lobster,
But that's why Lisa Simpson becomes a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. I have heard that story where a kid sees a piece of media, realizes, oh, animals are like people, whether you think that's true or not. Cartoons make it seem that way. And then kids go like, oh, I don't want to. I've heard that happen, but it didn't work on me either.
It didn't work on me. I mean, I think I'm soulless because, like, we watched the other night, at Monday night movie night, we watched Babe 2.
Pig in the City, baby.
And my first thought was I should have bacon later.
That it just made you.
Which that's a problem.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I went around asking all my dad friends what's the first thought they had holding their child, and if it was as profoundly moving as it's supposed to be, quote unquote, according to media. And Soren Bowie said, I don't think it matters, because my first thought was, wow, you really could fit this thing in a microwave. Don't do that, though. Don't put it in a microwave. God, how awful. Man, just think about it. The amount of suffering in that tiny thing as it goes around in that microwave. I should stop thinking about this.
On the lazy Susan rotating slowly.
I was like, okay. And he's like, the point is, don't judge your thoughts. It's fine. Thoughts just surface.
Well, don't judge Soren's thoughts. That's what Soren's out here to say.
Judge his actions.
Judge his actions, which may or may not include
his eugenicist action. Let's see. Also, I don't want to underplay, as we talk about the music and everything, that it truly is. I think what's defining about the golden era of this cell animation that I admire so much is not just the fluidity. You know, we talk about anime people, like we talk about anime of this era comparatively, as being lower budget. One of the things they did to compete against Disney was cut the frame rate. And that is why you get the specific Disney fluidity that seems signature. Also, they used rotoscoping more than other houses were at the time. But the main thing I wanted to point out was I feel like Disney animation houses, like the teaching prevalent in this era, they just have the perfect squash and stretch physics for me. It's like how we like a certain era of Smash Brothers. I like the stretchiness of these people. Yeah.
I like the way that their mouths move. I like the way that their bodies move, and like the angles and the shadows cast as, you know, things rotate, and, you know, obviously,
I'm going to share a screen with you. This guy, it's Renee chasing Sebastian.
Oh,
look how stretched out that fucker is.
Yeah, look at how stretched that out. Yeah,
the idea that you can freeze a frame and be like, oh, they had to completely mutate this guy to get that effect is so cool to me.
Obviously, this is famous for being essentially the last hand-drawn cell animation feature by Disney. The next one was The Rescuers, and that used essentially an early digital like compilation machine They even considered bringing out the old like parallax machine that they had. I forget what it's
Like
called.
old Popeye cartoons used and stuff.
Yeah, like Snow White and stuff, like old school. They tried to use it for this, but it was so old that it was like unusable. Like the machine itself was broken.
And then by the time you hit Beauty and the Beast, my dad was buying and bringing home
Laserdisc and shit.
Japanese laser discs that showed you the ballroom scene with the
Right.
wire work underneath and all these featurettes about how they're starting to integrate
where they like
computers.
retroactively like learned. It was like the first like it wasn't like it's not AI by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the same kind of concept. It's like
well,
let's take the old
industry.
Disney and like itemize it and atomize it, and then just now we have it and we're gonna reuse it all the time. And yeah, it was just it was an early like it's a computer, but like so early that it like felt like it wasn't. And then within 5 years, it was all computer anyway. Not that there wasn't any artistry or hand-drawn stuff that was used as influential, but it's like we're now in it's not frame by frame. Every frame needs to be drawn from scratch, like how all these were done previous to this film. And it's just crazy to forget that. And you can kind of tell, like when you look at it, you're like, did her mouth move in a way that a mouths can't move? Like, you no longer have that problem, even in things that ape, the hand-drawn cell animation style. You don't have those kind of errors anymore. But it also allows for, like you're talking about, the stretching and stuff like that. It allows for this character.
Not that people don't still do it, because people do, but it's like a lost art form, quote unquote, in terms of how pervasive it once was. There's still avid cell animators out there.
All those people don't work on that anymore.
Look at Max, the Shaggy dog. Like that was a labor of fucking love. The Shaggy dog is so well animated all throughout the movie. Well, the way he moves.
This movie famously, one of the directors of animation was like, there's over 1 million bubbles in this movie.
Oh, sure. To
the point that they outsourced just the making of the bubbles to a Chinese, like animation company.
Well, so that's incredible, because I just love this intellectual, like, art dialectic. I remember an interview with Lasseter talking about how, Finding Nemo, of course, it came up frequently that they want a completely different plot, blah, 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 but it wouldn't exist without Little Mermaid / the ambitious benchmarks that Little Mermaid set. Like, how lavish of an underwater world can we render is a part of the appeal, the technical appeal. And Miyazaki said, I made Ponyo because I wanted to prove, fuck CG, you can do this, you can do just as good with cell. So, like, Little Mermaid has spawned a long line of, let's do the best underwater shit, spectacular animation.
Dude, have you seen the video where it's like Miyazaki saying, like, one of the greatest shots that I've ever done
I was under the
is
sea.
This 3-second shot of a crowd where it's like there's like 100 people in the shot physically, and they're all doing their own thing. Wow. And it's only like it's like 5 seconds or less or something like that. And one guy did it. That
shot took me 17 and a half years.
So they took 3 years to make the movie, and he just picked one dude and said, you're going to do this for 3 years.
Fuck you, Hayao.
And they have one shot, like, interview with the guy. He's like,
kill me.
Yeah, I did it.
It was a lot of work.
It was
kind of mind numbing, frankly.
But I mean, he's terrifying.
That's the best thing about Miyazaki is everyone describes him essentially as walking around the office smoking cigarettes, staring at the back of your head, being like, do this better. Like, you're fucking this up.
You're making
you're embarrassing my ancestors. Anyway, I want to say, given everything we sort of just discussed about the time makes fools of us all, like, this plot is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it features a shirtless daddy sitting on his throne. Doesn't he have ocean stuff to be doing? Sniffing the flower from his daughter's hair and being like, I wonder who she's in love with up there. It's like weird. Like people
weird.
act weird in this. And my question is, or my wish is, that I could have been there at the meeting where a bunch of white men in suits decide how small her bra can be and how deep the V-neck on her tail goes down towards her vagina. Because
how to sexualize Ariel.
That's
basically
notable to me. This was at least in because growing up, once I was of age, we hit every Disney movie. This was the first one with a hint of sexuality at all. And it was a lot of it. Or like 2 kids.
I don't know.
I remember talking about it on the playground.
The dwarves are highly erotic.
Ariel was scandalously sexy, or like made kids feel weird.
Yeah. They based her physical model based off of Alyssa Milano, which is wild.
The cookie?
Yeah. When she was what was the sitcom she was on? Who's the Boss or some nonsense? I don't know.
Yeah,
who's the
Bobby's
Boss?
World.
Yeah, what's the
like
I don't know, it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, she was like a teen at the time, and they were like, yeah, that's who we're going off of. But yeah, it's sexualized in that manner for sure. And like, yeah, they had to design like what Ariel's breasts and stuff like that, which is wild. I mean, especially considering, I mean, you mentioned anime before, where they're even worse because they're like this hot little girl, you know, like they're like, who happens to be 14, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean,
okay, all cultural compacts, by and large, I think some can be argued philosophically to be rooted in objective morality, but like, right, like how we treat sexuality in terms of fantasy or whatever is fully negotiable in a construct based on your time and place in history or whatever. So my point being, by our standards, Japanese culture way highly more sexualizes their drawn media, right? And at the same time, historically censors their like filmed porn more. And that leads me back to Little Mermaid, because I wanted to ask you, do you think Ursula had anything to do with bringing tentacle porn from the world of hentai over to us in the way that Robin Hood launched the furry trend?
Interesting. I don't think any of these things launched anything.
Sexualized octopus lady is a pretty unique thing we didn't have before.
I'm sure for someone is out there who just wanted to raw dog Ursula.
Or get stepped on by Ursula.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's no doubt.
Hole.
And the same thing goes for Robin Hood, as we have examined the free culture. It's a very.
I scrolled to the bottom of my notes. The last line of this movie, also the title of a Louis C.K. movie, is "I love you, Daddy."
Yeah, exactly.
So fucking Disney. It's so like Disney. A 50s. It feels more 50s than 90s. It really does feel like we've come a long way, baby. I love you, Daddy.
It's wild that they were like, this is the big swing toward progressiveness in '89. You know, we look back at it and we're like, oh, sweet summer child, because, history makes fools of us all. But it's wild where we were even at that time. And it's so like 1 year from the 90s that we kind of package this in our minds as a 90s film. It's an 80s film. It really is. Like that. Like, that's why we have these central narratives.
It just treats kids as stupid, or like, I remember it bothering me even at the time as a child, talking to my brother and dad about, at the end, Poseidon just zaps her. He's like, oh, you learned your lesson. And he zaps her. He goes, okay, Miriam, I want you to be free. And he uses his magic to give her legs. So,
like, that Spears.
Like, his level of magic was commensurate enough to change her form at any time. Why are we doing all this? Like, if he and Ursula both can change her form at will with their magic, why is there a need for a system of contracts? And that even bothered me as a kid, as like
you're just like a little communication would have solved all of this, baby.
Or it just feels like the plot, and you feel it. I think you do feel it even.
Yeah.
The plot feels like a parent reading you a fairy tale who goes,
Don't
that
ask
doesn't
questions.
matter. That doesn't matter. Yeah. But then the big horse comes. Like, don't care about that.
I got a lot of questions about the culture of mer people. You know, obviously, there's nothing
Logistics.
that we are talking about that, like, you know, we didn't cover as cracked as a day
right.
back in the day. But like this one really struck with me, because the only mer people you even see in this movie are stuck in Ursula's cave. They only come out at the end when she dies. And it's like, is King Triton so bad of a ruler that he hasn't been like, all my people are gone?
Oh, wait, meaning
I should look into that with
his daughters are mer people and they're around. But are you saying in the big crowd scenes, it's all sea creatures and no mer people?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, so all the humanoids. You know what? Hats off to him. He's like, I view all my subjects equally. Who cares that the humanoid population's becoming a minority?
But also, there's a genocide clearly happening in Ursula's cave, and he didn't look into it.
She's captured 98% of the human population.
The war between octopus and human, which is another way of describing hentai.
And Game of Thrones
is like well on at this point, and Triton is the worst leader because he decides not to do anything about it, even though he has a spear that can change the DNA of any animal.
He's so stuck up in his petty King Lear bullshit. Yeah,
right.
If we're talking about core logic things that I couldn't, I'm like, wait, really? They're not going to address that? That still seems crazy to me. Is like in Kiss the Girls. Ultimately, Sebastian finally gets Eric to kiss the girl by going, and it's information he didn't know. So this is objective reality. He goes, I just feel like your name is, Jessica, Jennifer. And then
Rachel.
Sebastian goes, Ariel. And he goes, Ariel? And she goes, and they kiss. And it's like, so wait. The humans can understand the fish language?
They can.
Then why can't Ariel go to the shore and just say to someone at the shore, you know this guy, Eric? You seen this guy? Hey, let's develop a society, like a link between our two societies. Hey, all the humanoids are getting killed by an octopus down here. What's going on up there? What is it to run? What is it to laying all day in the sun?
Napoleon's doing a thing.
Let's exchange some knowledge about our people.
Also, I feel like we're missing the big point, which is Prince Eric is so dumb. He's like, what's your name? And then a crab talks to him. And he's like, oh, what was that?
Oh, word. Oh, that crab was right.
That's
no
so
further
crazy.
Questions. That crab was right.
He's so fucking... I had that idea. Your name is Ariel.
Dude, and he can't...
He's so
ultimately, when Ursula seduces him before she hypnotizes him, he legit, it's like he has face blindness. He can't tell the difference between Ariel and quote unquote the mermaid he saw that he keeps asking around about.
He's under her
and this
spell.
New girl. He is at some point, but not immediately. Not
breaks
immediately.
And his eyes change. So
yes.
like he's clearly under a spell, and she didn't like seduce him. She just cast a spell on him, and he instantly was like, "We're gonna get married."
But which again brings us to the power question: if she can cheat the contracts by literally just changing the rules, changing shape, and hypnotizing him,
she can do whatever.
Why doesn't she just steal Ariel's voice? Seems like that's well within her power.
Just kidnap the girl.
She would need to. It's like, why did the devil go to Georgia? Can't he just take the guy's soul? Isn't he the devil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck her problem is. She should be way more powerful.
And how the fuck does Flounder constantly chill motionless with his body 90% up out of the water to talk to Ariel and Sebastian?
I don't know.
Because his tail's not even underwater. What is lifting him?
Dude, I want to say one last thing about, there's a moment with Prince Eric where he goes out to brood in the middle of the night, and he toots a single note on his fucking shitty flute and then sighs because the subtext is, my girlfriend can't talk.
I can't I may as well not play flute if she can't talk. Also, I love that he sees a woman who he feels feelings for and looks exactly like the mermaid he dreams of. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Oh, you can't talk? You can't be who I thought. She could talk." Oh, fuck me then. Like, I couldn't have lost my voice in between, or like, no, there's no way. That's just logic grid to you. Like, Eric is so simplistic. It's insane the way his brain works. He's like, oh, you talk, you not her. She no talk.
It literally becomes that at the end of the wedding when like Ursula is like outed as an octopus and stuff like that, and like the Nautilus shell breaks because of, you know, birds.
Yeah, whatever.
Like Ariel goes, ha 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 ha, and he goes, "You can talk? You're the one."
Which, dude, I've tried that on many, many women, and I've only got laid a handful of times off of it. You can
Eric
talk.
Is just so
You're
dumb.
the one.
You're the one, baby. Oh, by the way,
and yet that little riff you just did, to me, that is as iconic as like the Mario theme.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
for sure. I do want to say, imagine going to a wedding and on her way up to the altar, the bride kicks a dog.
Right. Yeah. Also,
I guess it's also attacked by birds and crabs and then later turns into a big octopus. But still, the kicking the dog is just so like out of pocket for the movie.
Well, but in that whole melee, which is, as you pointed out, largely the day is ultimately saved by friendly animals more than any of the human characters.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, the birds do all the work, dude.
Yeah.
Like the seals, then arguably the seals, who are, of course, aggressively mammalian, then dolphins, still mammals, and then Max the dog does a lot.
The fish, yes.
The whole fish community is just kind of taking credit for the win in a very like America beat the Nazis, but really the Russians did kind of way.
Yeah, no, it's true. The fish are just kind of doing wah, wah, wah. You know, like
right, and then the mermaid have a big party, and it's like, you guys were all in Ursula's cave. You weren't helping. You were already slime.
Crabs, birds. That's the backbone of the sea. Apparently.
Forces of justice. I'm sorry. This movie is, as not every Disney movie is, so I do think it's special. It's like a dartboard of just amazing illogic that is hilarious anywhere you look. Like, I forgot, just randomly scrolling through my notes. It's crazy that the way that Ursula is undone is that a seagull chances upon her singing the details of her evil plan aloud to herself in an empty room.
And then Buddy Hackett's like, I gotta go.
I gotta tell you, yeah, like, wow. What are the odds it would have fallen apart in that exact way? Fucking bad luck.
Speaking about Buddy Hackett's seagull, I think my favorite moment in this rewatch, I had never realized this before, and you can just watch the Kiss the Girl on YouTube. All the animals in the lake are getting super horny because like the kiss is about to happen, like we're edging on the kiss. Mm-hmm. And then there's a single shot of Sebastian whose eyes are getting big and he's like hanging on like a reed or whatever, and he's like, oh, it's about to happen. And behind him is the Buddy Hackett seagull, and he starts to hump Sebastian.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Is this akin to the...
he starts thrusting
the boner that the priest has? Is this an urban legend, or is this a new one you think you've discovered?
All I know is that you watch those, 3 to 4 seconds of frames and tell me that that's not Buddy Hackett going to town on Sebastian, because it is very clearly that's what's happening, because they wanted to build in the momentum, they wanted to build a climax, and they like were just like, might as well just
they did
do it.
Every it's sense wild of the word. Climax,
I mean, I'm sure they justify it as something else, but it's just wild to me that the Buddy Hackett seagull is so fucking horny in this movie.
He uses a fork as a frenulum or whatever.
Dude, if you found a shipwrecked girl and the first thing she does is comb her hair with a fork and blow into a pipe, like, whatever era this takes place in, I assume you'd be like, this person has brain damage. Like, this person is not right, you know?
To me, it would be like Mystery Casper Hauser. Meaning I'd be like, if people aren't familiar, that's a Werner Herzog movie based on a true story of a guy who they think ultimately was like a nobleman's bastard that he just didn't want to deal with. But a baby who was like found in the woods and raised in someone's cellar for a decade or longer until they was like 19. And then they just opened the door and let him out. And he had no human understanding or whatever. More feels like that.
Yeah, it's just wild that they do not ask the question. And in fact, Eric is like, I might marry this girl.
He's like a blank slate. It's to a bizarre degree. Oh, did you notice that his last girl that he's like, why didn't you marry the last one? And he's like, that bitch from Glowerhaven? Dude, she's literally from Frowntown. Can't marry the girl from Frowntown.
By the way, his advisor or whatever, his name is Grim.
Yeah, Grimsby.
And it's like he is the worm tongue of this thing, right?
But a benign one, right? He's like
right. He's nice. He's got his heart into whatever hijinks Eric's got going. But like, there's no parents involved in Eric's life, right? There's no king or queen. He's described as the prince, but
oh yeah, there's no parents. It's Muppet Babies. We don't know what's up.
Given the observation that we made before, where there's like 0 to few mer people left for what seems like most of Ariel's life, and then she gets legs, and then she goes on her little adventure on this port town, and she sees all this life, all these humans. So she's interacted with mainly fish and birds her whole life, right? And then all of a sudden she sees people like her.
And her 6 sisters and her dad.
Yeah, I guess she's got her dad and shit. But like, it's just wild to me that isn't spoken more about. Like, she's like, you are exactly like us.
What's wild is they immediately essentially fridged the idea that they tried to gesture at.
Coexistence.
Which is that, well, her fucking arc isn't to find a husband. It was to be a part of the world.
Right.
So like in a modern context or even unquote correct storytelling, it would be that she explores the wider world and has all kinds of amazing discoveries and adventures and action set pieces. Not that she stays within a 500-yard radius of the first place she ever visits and settles down with the first human person she ever saw.
Boy.
Like, Jesus Christ. Well, I thought the character want was novelty and
like
exploration.
To figure out like what are telescopes. Like, she doesn't give a fuck apparently.
She's like, I just want to bag a rich husband, but up there, not down there. Basically, if there had been a rich merman around, she probably would have been fine. It's just that, as you said, they've allowed the kingdom to eliminate all breeding males, so she had to go elsewhere.
She had to go. Yeah, man. Yeah. But also, Ariel's dumb. Ariel's real dumb.
They're all so dumb. That's what I also wrote is, I said the plot of this, if you like chart it, is adult bumper cars, because every active agent is so incompetent that it's not predictable in a sensible way what will happen next.
It's just meandering nonsense.
Because you're like, well, why would he do that? I thought he had magic powers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
that's every plot turn.
That's an apt description of life, though. I think John Musker and Ron Clements, directors of Little Mermaid, got it right. This is a Hans Christian Andersen.
When in doubt,
thing,
kiss
right?
the girl.
Kiss the girl.
Yeah, I don't know the original, like, upsetting Baroque version of Little Mermaid.
Like, I want to know how they changed it. I should have done this research. Because they obviously updated the agency.
Well, it's an 1800s tale, so it's probably like she painfully saws her tail in two and fashions.
Yeah, it's like grim as hell.
Hobbles into town to declare her love just as she bleeds out. Yeah, that's why you should eat your grain.
Most people die of tuberculosis.
The prince dies of TB. Also, I'm good to wrap out. But I was just because I'm doing more videos at Cracked now. Check out the Cracked YouTube channel if you're interested. I'm doing a new video a week. Once a month, I curate like clips from the golden era. And I was just exposed to an observation Carmen Angelica made. in an After Hours
Love Garmin
episode about this, which is that to establish that Prince Eric is humble, his opening presentational image is that they've made a statue in his honor. And he goes, I don't like how heroic it makes me look. Send it back and have him redo it. And Carmen's point was, the humble choice would actually to be, thank you, and accept the statue.
Or tear
sending
it down.
back for any reason is the non-humble entitled choice.
It's not perfect.
yeah.
You assholes.
Don't make me look
Fix
so
it.
haughty.
It makes me look not how I wish to be.
It makes me look like a diva. Do it again.
Do it again. Yeah,
So I
no,
look
that's
less
right.
demanding.
That's 100% right. Yeah,
Good
no,
point.
Prince
Good point,
Eric is
Carmen.
dumb. Ariel's dumb. King Triton is dumb.
People who made
Ursula's
the movie dumb. Song's good.
The song's
Actors
good.
talented. Movie
and,
great.
and just like the opening number, I forgot how like good it looks. Like they do the warping, which must have murdered the brains of so many animators, because they
Right.
do this thing where it's
Water
like you're
ripples refracting.
they're mimicking like water in your eyes kind of idea,
Yeah.
like the refraction of the natural refraction of light in water. And they do it for the first like 18 shots, and then they give up because
they're
it's
like, "You
just
get
like
it."
clearly they're like, yeah, you got
Yeah.
it. This is magical
Yeah.
fucking thing underwater. It's
We wanted
fucking
this to
great.
come out in the 80s. Not
Don't make us do this
2022.
for the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
'cause It's a lost art, and it should be cherished as such for all of its flaws, in my opinion.
I definitely, I like I said, I don't think at this point that I would feed it into the brain of my child at an impressionable age. But as soon as you're old enough, which is not that old, to understand that not all things need to be taken at face value, some art can be misguided or dated, but other aspects of it are worth blah, 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 then I'd be like, well, definitely check out. Like if you do an history of animation or have any interest in animation, Little Mermaid's got
Little Mermaid's top notch. Yeah, as a
observed.
kid when I watched this, I didn't even. I mean, granted, I wasn't a little girl, so I didn't like reflect on this in the same way that I think a girl watching this would, in their formative years. But I would just respond to the songs, and I just remember it being one of my favorite movies for the sole purpose of like A, vibes, but B, just the songs
and the visuals,
cut
yeah.
to the soul.
But that's what's unique about storytelling and advertising, I think, which is also just weaponized storytelling, is like every time I see a commercial in a context of just me versus the commercial, it always seems like, why do we even have advertising as a thing? Like I never see an ad and go, I'm going to go purchase that now.
Mhm.
But statistically, en masse, advertising does make us do that. And
Yeah.
stories over time do normalize, our body
It's all
image, what
about
we think it is to be
normalization.
feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say that I'm like, yeah, I also feel like I didn't absorb anything in particular from Little Mermaid as a kid. But I know that collectively, from all the movies I watched, my whole personality arose. So that's an interesting, like, where's the line?
But it's interesting to me that when I look back at Disney, it's not as like there is that
Yeah.
undercurrent that we're talking about. But even like The Lion King, which was like geared toward me as like a little boy, like I didn't take anything from that. I was more of like, lions are cool and songs are great.
Oh, I
You know.
actually held on to the idea of Hakuna Matata for a long time as someone who struggles with anxiety. Like, like a
You're also
handful
a
of
fucking
concepts or
weirdo.
phrases will bounce around your head.
Mhm.
I would, as like, young
Little
before I discovered
Zen Buddhist
more terminology like be present and stuff like that. I remember a period as a young kid being like, I got a Hakuna Matata right now.
Man, if we knew each other when we were like 9,
Ooh.
pretty sure I'd beat the shit out of you.
Oh, I was going to say we would have been Timon and Pumbaa for Halloween, but instead you're going to beat the shit out of me.
No, we probably would be. I was actually a nerd, just like you. It's just very funny to me that you're like, I was like all Hakuna Matata.
No, you'd be coming over watching fucking TV at my house because your
Hell
parents
yeah.
wouldn't let you watch cool shit. My dad would let you watch Simpsons and shit. South Park.
Eat pizzas and drink Surge, dude.
That was because my mom was also open with media. But South Park was actually so like Simpsons. Dad was like, I don't care that they're young. I think they should watch The Simpsons. And my mom's like, yeah, I don't care. The first one that actually was a split was he's like, I don't care that they're too young. I think this show South Park's really good. And she's like, it's too crude.
Too much.
It's too uncouth. That was the line.
You know what's so funny for me is like my mom just got in her head that she was like, the reason I didn't watch Simpsons until I was in college was because my mom was so like, Bart Simpson is a bad influence.
He's a little scoundrel.
In
man.
like the 5 years, the 5 years where like Simpsons was relevant to when South Park came out.
I know, dude. You should have just worn a Stewie Griffin shirt and been like, he's my hero.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just remember that like my mom didn't care at that point. So I got all of South Park. No problem. She even bought a shirt for me that was like a South Park shirt.
So did you see the episode where Cartman scares the hell out of Bart Simpson before seeing The Simpsons?
It made me laugh so much because like Eric Cartman does this thing where he goes,
I chopped up their testicles and fed them to their kid or whatever.
The head of a statue, you fucking idiot.
yeah.
I'm a fucking
fed
monster.
a kid his dead parents in a bowl of chili so the Radiohead would dunk on him.
Yeah, exactly. And it made me laugh because
like,
I was
like, well, both episodes were good. I like both of those episodes.
Both of those episodes are good.
The Telltale Head and Scott Tenorman Must Die.
But in any case, like, it's just funny how, like, when you do the child rearing question, it's clear that, like, I'm a pretty cool guy. I think we can all agree I'm pretty cool. Yeah. And my mom fucked that up. That's all I'm saying. So you can fuck up your kid and it'll be fine, is all I'm saying.
I can say is my kid will be playing Night Trap, so there, Mom. There's nothing you can do. Took away my Night Trap.
They're going to get real
for
freaky,
Sega
man.
CD. Let's get out of here.